Hey Jesse, try copying this.
Sure. So I'm putting the page in the machine, and on the touchpad I'm selecting copy and start. And the machine is warming up. It's making the copy. And the copy's coming out. And here you are.
Okay, how did you feel about that?
It was pretty straightforward. I just selected a few options on the touchpad, and it made the copy for me.
Okay, what if you cannot see and I asked you to do the same thing?
It might be possible, but it would be very difficult because the touchscreen is flat, so there's no way for me to feel for the buttons. But it might be possible.
What if you cannot see and I asked you to do a more complicated function, like 2 copies, double-sided, and stapled, for example?
You just heard from
Kalai Ramya, I'm a data scientist.
and
Jesse Vig, I'm a research scientist.
they're both researchers at the Palo Alto Research Center, formerly called Xerox PARC, and I'm Kyle Dent. For this podcast, we're talking about a project we recently did to equip Xerox copiers, or in the industry jargon, multifunction devices. Machines that print, copy, scan, fax. We worked on a project to put a conversational interface on a multifunction device.
When you say conversational interface,
I'm talking about talking to copiers.
We wanted to make it easier for blind and visually impaired people to use copy machines. We worked with the Vista Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired in Palo Alto. We talked to Alice Turner, who is the Community Relations Manager, about our plans.
They were pretty excited that somebody wanted to do this. The Vista Center provides lots of programs and services to the blind and visually impaired. Last June, we paid them a visit and spent a couple hours talking with a focus group to hear about the problems blind and visually impaired folks have using copiers. The group was made up of a variety of people. There was a teacher, a psychotherapist, engineer, etc. There were 12 in all. I'm going to play some voices from the focus group. The first thing to notice is that overall, the group does a lot of copying.
Paper is not going to go away.
I do quite a bit of documents for my job because I prepare training materials for sighted individuals.
And I work in grade schools, mostly high school, but K to 12. So you have to.
At least one participant faxes documents as part of her practice, but many try to avoid copying altogether.
They want everything fast.
Truthfully, I really don't print very often. I'm a little bit phobic about doing
They
it.
probably need copies of stuff made. And I'm not gonna.
Or colleagues sometimes try to be helpful, but by excluding them.
Never asked to help with this project because I couldn't do all the photocopying. Whereas if I had some way to do it, then it would be great to feel a part of that team.
Right.
Often they have to ask for help, but they hate doing
I
that.
pretty much just have to have someone make the copies for me.
Can I please borrow your eyes for a minute?
And it's still not printing, I will get somebody to
I
help.
have to have someone verify that I got the
For
right
me,
copy.
I hate asking for help for something that I know that I should be able to do on
So
my
now
own.
I'm paying somebody to do paperwork that I could easily do on my own if I had the equipment.
Overall, we heard a general frustration with the current
School A
situation.
on Monday, their copier is different than school B where I was last
Mostly
Friday.
now everything is digital and on a screen and you
And
can't see anything.
if it could not take 4 times that it takes a sighted
Yes.
person to do the job with paper, it gets to almost like this process of
I can hear the
aversion.
frustration in my voice because it's like,
We set an ambitious goal for the project: to create a way for anyone to use all the functions of multifunction devices completely independently just by talking to it. I sat down with Kalai and John Maxwell, a principal engineer at PARC and also the lead developer of the solution. I started off by asking John what's different about creating a conversational user interface compared to a graphical one.
It's different from a standard graphical user interface because the standard graphical user interface, the general model is one thing, one way. You don't ever have 2 different ways of doing the same thing. People then adapt to the graphical user interface. And people are very good at adapting to graphical user interface. With a speech interface, you have to have lots of different ways of saying the same thing and lots of different user models, and you have to be able to accept them all.
Any other challenges?
Graphical user interface, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you can put a lot of information on a screen. But actually listening to an agent talk can be really boring, and the user tends to want to interrupt. So we found it really important to be as brief as possible, so we didn't annoy the user.
If I'm a user, besides the ease of just saying what I want, are there other advantages?
You can ask questions as you're going along. What does this mean? How do I do this?
Yep.
And it interleaves nicely. But when you have a graphical user interface, you can't do that. All you can do is choose another menu.
What does this do for the blind in particular?
The main thing for the blind is that Xerox used to have a lot of tactile buttons, and they could actually use the copier as it was. And the simplest thing is you drop a piece of paper in and you press the green button and out the paper comes. But when Xerox switched to using a touch-sensitive display, the green button went away. And so they can no longer do the simple thing that they used to be able to do.
Kalai, you came into the project as the testing was getting underway. Tell us about the technology at that point.
It had some issues, like how the users were talking to the copier, and it had some set words that it understands. So we went through different trials to introduce those words in a natural language setting. So we tested that with PARC researchers first, and we fine-tuned it, and then we brought in our test subjects from Vista.
How'd that go?
It went pretty good. So they were able to interact with the copier, and we saw that in the post-survey results that they were pretty confident in using the copier, and they felt very empowered to use it.
Okay, we should see how this thing works. I am now in the design lab where we have our copier set up with the device. I'm looking at a small device with a big button. It has a speaker and a microphone, and I'm pressing the button.
What can I do for you?
To get the conversation started. I'd like to make 2 copies.
So, do you want to make 2 copies?
Yes.
Have you loaded the document?
No. Where do I load it?
Okay. It goes in the document feeder tray or on the glass plate. When the document is loaded, please let me know.
Where is the document feeder?
You meant describe the document feeder, correct?
Yes.
The document feeder feeds multiple pages to the printer. The document feeder is on top of the printer, hinged over the glass plate. Please let me know when the document is loaded.
Should I load the document face up or face down?
You meant should you load the document face up, correct?
Yes.
Place the original face up in the feeder tray, face down on the glass plate. When the document is loaded, please let me know.
It's loaded.
Okay, please wait while the printer copies the document.
Okay, so I'm taking my original and scan that through, and it's making all the right noises. Sounds like it's gearing up to print my copy, which I can see passing through the handler, and that's done.
Copy is done. The copy should be in the output tray. Is there anything else I can do for you?
Where is the output tray?
You meant where are the trays, correct?
Yes.
Input trays are stacked vertically in front of you, like drawers. Output trays are to your right, stacked like shelves. The document feeder tray is on top of the printer, on the left.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. Happy to help. Goodbye.
This is great that you're doing this.
I was encouraged to do more complicated tasks because I was able to achieve the simple ones quite easily.
It's really nice to know that, I mean, if I had to do it independently, that I could. It's very impressive.
A big thank you to everybody who worked on the project. Robin Ewing, John Maxwell, Kalai Ramaya, Anusha Venkatakrishnan, and Jesse Vig. A special thanks to Philip Masri, Shivali Mohan, and Jamie Richard for helping out with the focus group and user testing. Also, thanks to all the PARC researchers who volunteered to be our first guinea pigs. And the biggest thanks of all to the Vista Center and the great group of people they put together to help us.